Are you building out the content types for your content management system, but you find yourself dealing with inconsistency, a bad user experience, or a ton of tech debt? Then you, my friend, might be missing a critical step in your development process, something known as content modeling. So, what is content modeling? Well, content modeling is the process of defining the structure, the organization, and relationships of content within the content management system. It involves identifying the different types of content that'll be managed, determining the attributes and properties of each content type, and establishing how content pieces relate to one another. In short, think of your content model as the blueprint for everything you create in your CMS. And now for our theater content type. Let's start by simply thinking of all the things we'd want to know about a movie theater. First off, our theater will need a name and a logo. Next, it probably would be nice to have an address, something that stores the theater's street, city, state, and zip code. We might also need to store contact details in case our users want to get in touch with the theaters directly. So we'll add an email address and a phone number field. If we're imagining a landing page for each individual theater, we might want a description field so users can learn a little more about the company. Speaking of landing pages, to make it easier for our users to navigate between the various theaters, we can include a slug field for human readable URLs. Last but not least, we probably want to let our users know which movies will be playing in each theater. Assuming the movie will be pulled from our internal movie catalog, we'll add a movie reference field as well. With that out of the way, we can move our list into a spreadsheet. Let's just reorder these a little bit. I want to put them in the order that they'll appear in on the actual form. Now let's start populating the other columns with what we know. First, let's go over each column and what they actually mean. First up, we have the type column. This column informs us of the type of field we'll be creating. For now, we'll stick to the Sanity primitive types, which you can find in the Sanity documentation. A link to that documentation can be found in the description below. Next, we want to denote whether or not this is a required field. A good way to think about this is to ask yourself, will my content type make sense or work correctly if this information wasn't there? And then we have validation. This is basically asking, are there specific requirements we need to check for after the info has been provided? So things like proper formatting, removing duplicates, and handling invalid values. And finally, we leave a field open for notes. This is just a place to put any details outside of the normal bits of info. So let's wave our magic editing wand and fill all this data in. And voila! So to recap, let's go through them all. Starting with our name field. This field will use the simple string primitive from Sanity, and it'll be required since the theater doesn't make sense if we don't know its name. We'll make the logo field optional in case our theater companies don't want to supply one officially. The address field should be optional since it's going to be specific to the user's location. The IMAX that's closest to me, for example, may not be the same address for the IMAX that's closest to you. Phone is also going to be optional for the same reason, but we should validate it to make sure it's formatted correctly. Email, similar to phone, won't be required, but should have a specific format, so we'll validate that as well. And slug is how these theaters will be navigated to on our website, so we'll need to make that a required field. And finally, our movies field. Movies aren't going to be required since there may be cases where a theater is listed, but just isn't showing movies at the moment. We will need to add a layer of validation, however, to ensure our list of movies can't consist of any duplicates. And there you have it, folks, a fully fleshed out content model for our theater content type. With that out of the way, it's time to move into the code and actually create it.